They watched her fall like she was nothing. That's how it started. Not with warning, not with time to think, but with the sound of flesh meeting water, hard and loud. A slap so violent the bridge itself seemed to flinch. It wasn't just a splash. It was an ending. She had flown, briefly. The brown wrapper she wore fluttered like a broken flag. Her gray hair whipped in the air. Her hands reached for something that wasn't there. And then, the river took her. The third mainland bridge went silent before it screamed. Drivers slammed brakes. Doors opened. Buckets dropped. Someone's phone shattered on concrete. There were shouts, gasps, useless commands. The kind of noise people make when they're scared but don't know what to do. And nobody moved. Nobody climbed down. Nobody touched the railings again. Because the water below didn't just look deep. It looked alive, hungry, black as sin, and just as angry. And the three men who threw her in, they were still there. They stood by a black car with blinking hazards. Calm, silent. One leaned on the hood, casually counting the crowd. Another smirked like this was a job well done. The third lifted his hand and pointed to the water, like he was giving it permission. Finish it, that finger said. And the river obeyed. The crowd froze. All of Lagos froze. This wasn't a movie. This wasn't fiction. This was now. Real. Terrifying. And nobody did anything. Until one voice broke the wall of fear. Move. The man who spoke didn't belong in this kind of story. He was small. Thin. His coat was a dying shade of gray. Ash-colored, torn at the sleeves, soaked with old rain. A bag hung over his shoulder, swinging with every step. Mud coated his shoes. His beard looked like it had grown in prison. And maybe it had. But his eyes had no business being that sharp. They were the kind of eyes that had seen death and no longer cared what it looked like. He walked forward, pushing through people like they were ghosts. Someone tried to stop him. Oga, don't. That water will eat you. He didn't even turn. A woman cried out, Those men, they'll kill you too. He paused, just once, then spoke. His voice was calm, broken, but steady. If I stand here and watch her die, I'm already dead. And then, he jumped. The bridge gasped. The girl who had been filming screamed and dropped her phone. Others leaned forward, suddenly desperate to see. 10 seconds. 20. 30. A voice whispered, He is gone. Then the water broke. A head. Shoulders. Arms. Fighting. And in those arms, the old woman. Limp. Lifeless. Water dripping from her face. Her gray hair clung to her cheeks like seaweed. Her arms hung like cloth. But she was there, alive. The man kicked and pulled. Kicked and pulled. The river dragged him back like it wasn't done yet. But he didn't let go. He reached a low concrete edge beneath the bridge. Slippery. Barely enough room for a breath. But he clung to it, heaved her up, lifted her higher. His arms trembled. His knees hit the slab like hammers. Still, he didn't stop. Above them, the crowd had changed. They were shouting again, but now it was for him. Bring rope. Turn her to the side. God is watching you, my brother. But nobody had rope. Nobody had a plan. Only he had done something. He shifted her weight. Her body was a sodden log in his arms. His feet slipped on the moss. Still, he climbed. Every movement screamed. He was inches from the top when everything stopped. A new sound filled the air. Engines. Deep. Heavy. Convoy. SUVs rolled in like armored ghosts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Black. Silent. Blocking the road like a fortress. And for the first time, the men in suits looked nervous. The crowd went quiet. Too quiet. Doors opened. Not shouting. Not commands. Just presence. Big men in black stepped out. Earpieces. Broad shoulders. Eyes like scanners. And then, a final door opened. A man stepped out. He looked ordinary at first. No gold chain. No designer sunglasses. Just a white shirt. Dark trousers. But everything he wore whispered money. Shoes that cost more than most people's rent. A watch that could buy a small car. But it wasn't the outfit that mattered. It was the panic in his eyes. He looked left, right, down, and then he saw them. The man holding the woman. And something broke in him. He ran. Not a jog. Not a careful descent. He ran like he was being hunted. Sir! Sir, wait! A guard shouted. But he was already at the edge. Already kneeling. His voice cracked. broke. Mom. And the bridge erupted again. That's his mother. That's Sam Andrew, the billionaire. Sam Andrew, founder of Samch Tech, one of the richest men in Africa, now on his knees, weeping into the wind. And his mother in a stranger's arms. Sam climbed down. Fast. Dangerous. He reached them, his breath shaking. He saw her face. Waterlogged. Pale, but still breathing. Then he looked at the man holding her. Properly. Torn coat. Tired eyes. Wet beard. And without thinking, he gripped his shoulder. Thank you, Sam said. Thank you for saving my mother. The man blinked. He didn't answer. His lips were blue. His hands trembled. Sam turned to his guards. Bring the car down. As close as you can get. Then to the man. Give her to me. The man's arms tightened without thinking. She's not breathing right, he said, hoarse. Sam nodded. We're going to the hospital. Now. He lifted her. Carefully. Like she might crack. The man swayed from the loss of weight. Still, he climbed after them. Back on the bridge, Sam turned to him. You, he said. The man flinched. Come with me. Now. A guard stepped forward, hesitating. Sir, I said. Sam snapped. He's coming. The man looked down at himself. Wet. Dirty. Still dripping river water. The crowd murmured. He can't enter that car like that. This life. But Sam had already opened the door. And a man stepped in. He sat across from the billionaire. Across from a dying woman. As the door shut, he looked back at the river. And for the first time in a long time, he felt afraid. Not of drowning, but of what came next. Because something in that moment whispered loud in his soul. Saving her was just the beginning. The SUV didn't roar. It growled, low, steady, commanding. Lagos traffic parted under the weight of flashing lights and screaming sirens. Inside the car, silence took up most of the space. Jude Aorii sat opposite Sam Andrew, soaked to the bone, the sleeves of his ash-colored coat dripping onto the plush leather seats. He didn't care. He didn't notice. His eyes were locked on the woman across from him, the same woman he had just pulled from the river. Madame Sanders' chest moved, but only barely. Her lips were pale, her gray hair matted to her forehead. Wires ran from her arms to machines that beeped softly like lullabies for the dying. Her hand was cradled in her son's, and Sam held it like it was his last lifeline. Stay with me, Mom, he whispered. Please, just stay. The car swerved sharply. Jude's shoulder hit the door. The smell of river water still clung to him. Mud, algae, fear. But he didn't shift. He just watched her breathe. He knew that rhythm. The shallow inhale, the mechanical push of the chest. That wasn't breathing. That was fighting. A guard turned from the front seat. Sir, Laros Medical Center in 2 minutes. Sam didn't look up. Call ahead. Tell them it's critical. The phone call happened quickly, efficiently. The driver stepped harder on the gas. Jude leaned back, closed his eyes for just 1 second, and the water came back. Cold, dark, hands grabbing. Not her hands, the river's. Pulling, dragging, whispering, let go. He opened his eyes fast. Not now, he told himself. The SUV screamed into the hospital compound. Security waved them through without question. A team of doctors and nurses were already waiting. The back door flew open. Neck pulses faint. Prepare emergency unit. Sam didn't wait. He lifted his mother again. Like he had done it before, like he knew this was his job and nobody else's. The guards reached to help him, but he growled, Leave me. Jude followed behind, stumbling slightly. His legs were slower than his heart. They rushed through automatic doors, through white halls filled with antiseptic and tension. A doctor blocked the hallway. Sir, we need to take her now. Sam hesitated. Sir, the doctor said again, more firmly. You can't come in. The words were a blade. Sam's hands shook as they let go of his mother's body. As the doors closed behind her, something inside him collapsed. He stood there, fists clenched, eyes on nothing. Jude hovered, unsure where he belonged. He felt like a ghost inside a dream. A nurse appeared beside him with a towel. Sir, you're soaked. Please. He took it. Not at once. Didn't use it. Sam finally turned around. Looked at Jude fully for the first time. What's your name? Jude's voice cracked. Jude. Jude Aorii. Sam nodded slowly, like he was writing it down in his head. Then his voice dropped. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask who she was. Jude shrugged slightly. She was drowning. Sam stared at him. Most people had reasons. Jude had only truth. A guard stepped forward. Sir, should we? No, Sam said, cutting him off. He stays. They moved to the waiting area. Sam dropped into a chair like gravity had increased. Jude sat across from him, still dripping, the floor under his seat starting to stain. They waited. Every time the doors opened, Sam sat up. Every time they didn't, he sat back down like it hurt. Finally, a doctor emerged. She's alive. Sam almost collapsed again. She's breathing, the doctor continued. But her lungs took in water. A lot. And there's head trauma. We're watching for swelling. The next few hours are critical. Sam nodded. Can I see her? One person. Sam looked back at Jude, then at the doctor. Let him come too. The doctor hesitated. Sir, he saved her. If he hadn't jumped, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The doctor sighed. 1 minute. Inside the ICU, the world was cold and mechanical. Beeping monitors, glowing screens, silver trays. Madame Sandra lay on a hospital bed that looked far too big. Machines breathed for her now. Jude stood still, afraid to move, afraid to speak. Sam approached the bed, took her hand gently, whispered, I'm here, Mom. The room was too quiet. Outside, in the waiting area again, Sam spoke first. You're homeless. Jude didn't flinch. Yes. You swim like someone trained. I used to be. Swimmer. National level. 2-time champion. Sam looked up fast. What? Jude gave a small, bitter smile. Long time ago. What kind of life takes a champion and puts him under a bridge? Jude paused. Prison, he said, quietly. Sam leaned forward. You were locked up? Framed, Jude said. Set up. I lost everything. When I got out, no job. No home. No one wanted to hear my story. Sam clenched his jaw. The system failed you. Jude looked at the floor. That's not new. Before Sam could respond, a nurse hurried over. Mr. Andrew, your mother just regained consciousness. Relief hit like a wave. Sam stood instantly. But the nurse added, she's asking questions. Sam's joy slowed. What questions? She keeps asking. Where's the man who pulled me from the river? Jude's breath caught. Sam turned to him slowly, something warm and wild flickering behind his eyes. She wants to see you. They followed the nurse back toward the ICU. Sam's phone buzzed. He checked the screen. His face changed. Problem? Jude asked. Sam showed him the screen. One message. Unknown number. Stop digging into what happened on the bridge, or the next body in the river will be yours. Jude felt the cold crawl up his spine. Sam's voice was steady, but it shook with fury. If my mother dies, I will burn this city to the ground. The room felt tighter, and Jude knew what he had suspected since the jump. Saving her had lit a fuse. Now someone wanted it buried. And Jude, the forgotten swimmer, the ex-con, the homeless ghost, had just become the only witness to a crime wrapped in suits and secrets. The SUV had taken him away from the bridge, but not out of danger. The real storm hadn't even started. Madame Sandra's eyes fluttered open like curtains lifting after a long night. At first, she saw nothing but brightness, colors bleeding together. Then came the pain, a deep, thudding ache in her chest, a tight pull in her nose, the strange weight of oxygen. She blinked once, twice. A hand was holding hers. Warm, strong, familiar. Sam, she whispered. He leaned forward instantly. His face was raw with exhaustion. His eyes, swollen from hours without sleep, lit up at her voice. Mom, he said. You're awake. Her gaze tried to focus. Her lips curved faintly. You look terrible. He laughed. A broken, grateful sound. You scared me. She turned her head slowly. I was in the water. Sam nodded, tears welling again. Yes. Her brow furrowed. I didn't come out by myself. No. She looked past him, scanning the room. Her voice came out smaller, but clear. Where is he? Sam swallowed. Who? The man, she said. The one with the tired eyes. The one who pulled me out. Jude stood at the edge of the room, frozen. Sam stepped aside. He's here. Her gaze found him. She reached out a shaking hand. Jude approached, hesitating like he was entering a sacred place. He took her hand, unsure whether to grip tightly or barely touch. Her fingers closed around his. You, Madame Sander whispered. You came back for me. Jude nodded. Words failed him. His throat burned with something he didn't have a name for. They threw me away, she said. Like nothing. But you jumped. Her eyes filled. Thank you, she said. Thank you for choosing my life. Jude looked down, unable to hold the weight of her gratitude. The nurse stepped forward gently. Madam, you need rest. Sandra nodded, but her hand didn't let go of Jude's. He stays, she said, even if I sleep. Outside the ICU, Sam leaned against the wall, wiping his face. She remembers you. Jude nodded. I'm just glad she's alive. You should be resting too, Sam said. You almost collapsed. I'm fine. No, Sam said. You're not. Before Jude could argue, Sam's phone rang. This time it wasn't a message, it was a call. He answered. His voice changed immediately. Talk. A wave of shouting came through the line. Sam's face darkened. When the call ended, he closed his eyes. They found the car, he said. Jude's stomach twisted. The one from the bridge? Sam nodded. Stolen. Fake plates. But the men, they weren't strangers. They worked for someone. Jude exhaled sharply. Who? Not sure yet, Sam said. But whoever it is didn't expect you. They saw my face, Jude said. They'll come again. Sam nodded. Exactly. A guard approached, voice low. Sir, hospital is secured. But we may have a problem. Sam turned. Speak. One of the men from the bridge was spotted near the hospital gate, asking questions. Jude's heart kicked. Sam's eyes turned cold. They're not done. He looked at Jude. And neither are we. That night, the hospital didn't sleep. Lights stayed on. Guards rotated. Eyes watched every hallway. Jude sat alone near a vending machine, knees pulled to his chest. His wet coat was gone, replaced by hospital clothes. But the cold hadn't left. It was under his skin now. He stared at the ceiling, remembered prison, metal beds, dry meals, people who forgot how to hope. He remembered the courtroom, the faces that never looked at him, the lies, the silence. A nurse approached with a paper cup. You should drink something. Thank you, Jude murmured. You're a hero, she said, almost shyly. He shook his head. I just didn't want her to die. She smiled. That's usually how heroes talk. Later, Sam returned. His eyes were still red, but calmer. My mother's sleeping, he said. She asked for you again before she drifted off. Jude nodded. She's strong. She is, Sam agreed. Then he added, you saved her, but you also became a witness. That changes everything. Jude looked up. I didn't ask for any of this. I know, Sam said, but now you're in it. They stepped outside briefly into the cool Lagos night. The lights of the city sparkled, but the air felt tense, like the city itself knew something had cracked. Sam leaned on his SUV. Tell me everything. Jude hesitated, then started talking. He spoke slowly. Childhood by the river. The first time he swam across it. The gold medals. The Olympic trial. The coach who betrayed him. The doping accusation. The evidence that was never real. The years in prison. The doors that never reopened after. He didn't cry. He didn't raise his voice. He just told it. Sam listened in silence. When Jude finished, Sam's voice was a whisper. They took your future. Jude shrugged. I survived. No, Sam said. You were buried alive. Just then, a guard ran toward them. Sir, we have a situation. Sam's posture changed. What now? We spotted someone near the hospital again. One of the same men. We think they're watching. Sam's expression darkened. Then we're moving. Jude frowned. Where? Sam turned. My home. You're coming with us. I don't belong in places like that. Sam looked him straight in the eye. You belong wherever you choose to stand for what is right. Jude was still silent when the doctor returned. She's stable, he said. We'll monitor her. But the worst is over. Sam closed his eyes in relief. The doctor turned to Jude. You save her life. That night, Jude sat in a mansion guest room. It smelled of new sheets and quiet money. The bed was too soft. The walls too clean. He couldn't sleep. Every sound felt like a footstep. Every moment felt like it could break. But somewhere deep inside, something had started to shift. Not comfort, not safety, something older. A kind of purpose he thought he'd lost forever. And outside, Beyond the gates and the lights and the guards, the city still moved. The same city that had once thrown him away now whispered his name like a secret. And someone out there didn't want him to survive long enough to tell it. The hospital gates opened before dawn. Mist hung in the air like breath, not yet exhaled. Lagos was quiet, not the kind of quiet that soothes, but the kind that warns. A black SUV rolled through the gates, followed by 3 others. Inside, Madame Sandra sat wrapped in a blanket, her eyes alert now, her face still pale, but her mind sharp. She watched the world outside pass like it was no longer hers. Sam rode beside her, silent, one hand on his phone, the other on the armrest like he needed something to grip. And Jude, in the last row of the car, sat quiet, folded into himself, his ash-colored coat still damp, bundled in his lap like something sacred. The drive to the mansion felt endless. They passed places Jude knew by heart. The fuel station where he once begged for water, the overpass where he used to sleep when it rained, the alley behind the old bank where a guard had once given him bread. Nobody looked twice at him then. Today, no one could stop staring. When the gates to the Andrew estate opened, Jude felt it deep in his stomach. He wasn't being driven to a house. He was entering a fortress. The walls were tall and white, lined with climbing vines and discreet cameras. The mansion sat like a palace behind them, all glass and quiet opulence. Calm fountains flowed in the courtyard as if nothing dangerous had ever touched this ground. As they stepped out, staff gathered, first curious, then stunned. "She's alive," someone whispered. Madam came back. Sam helped her out of the car himself, refused every offer of assistance. Sandra swatted him playfully, but allowed it. As she was wheeled inside, she turned to find Jude still standing at the car, uncertain. "You didn't run," she said. Jude looked up. "I said I wouldn't." She gave a tired nod. "Good. The world's full of people who leave before the second act." The house smelled like wealth. Clean floors, fresh flowers, something sweet from the kitchen. Jude kept his hands close to his sides. The ceilings were too high, the air too soft. A staff member approached him gently. "Sir, may I take your coat?" Jude clutched it without thinking. "No, thank you." Sandra, watching from her seat, cut in with a firm voice. "Leave him. That coat carried my life back to me." And just like that, the conversation was over. They placed her in the main lounge. High windows, warm light, soft pillows. Sam stayed close, pacing, checking his phone every few minutes like something might break loose at any second. "Go rest," Sandra told Jude after the doctor examined her again. "Later," he replied, "when you're better." She smirked. "Stubborn. Like my son." Still, she waved him off. "Go." Jude was led to a guest room. The shower alone looked bigger than every bathroom he'd seen in 5 years. He stood under the hot water until his shoulders loosened and his breath slowed. The river left his skin, but not his mind. When he returned, clean clothes on his back, he looked like someone else. Even the guards glanced twice. But Madame Sandra didn't blink. She simply said, "Sit. Talk." So he did. He told them everything. His childhood by the water. His first swim. The coach who trained him. His medals, the national trials. The sponsorships. The promise. Then, the test results that came back positive. The charge. The hearing that felt like theater. His coach's sudden silence. The lawyer who gave up before he began. The judge who never met his eyes. "I didn't even understand the science," Jude said. "Only that I was guilty before I opened my mouth." Prison had taken everything. Reputation. Family. Friends. After release, no one would hire him. His name was poison. "I became a ghost in the city I used to represent." He looked down at his hands. "Then one day, I saw a woman fall into a river, and I jumped." Silence followed. Madame Sandra's hands trembled. Not from weakness, from fury. "They stole your life," she said. Jude nodded once. "They buried you," Sam added quietly. Sam stood suddenly and paced. "This is the same system," he said. "The same rot that's been trying to eat us from the inside. They don't just steal money. They steal time. Names. Futures." Madame Sandra watched him. "Sit," she said, and he obeyed. "You saved me twice," she told Jude. "Once from water. Once from dying without believing good people still exist. I didn't do it for praise. I know. That's why you deserve it. Before Jude could respond, a guard entered, his tone low but urgent. Sir, he said to Sam, we intercepted a vehicle parked outside the outer wall. Watching. We believe it's one of the same from the bridge. Sam's mouth tightened. Did they see him? Not sure, but they were close. Sandra closed her eyes. They're not done. Jude stood. Then let me go. Sam turned to him. No, they're after me now. They were after my mother before they even knew your name. Sandra raised her voice. He stays. She looked at Jude. You are a witness now. You are not the problem. You are the threat. That night, no one slept. The mansion stayed lit, like it was preparing for siege. Guards rotated like soldiers. Cameras rotated. Guns were not shown, but present. Jude lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, hearing every click, every creak. He had felt hunted before, by poverty, by rejection, by systems built to forget him. But this was different. This wasn't random. This was targeted. At midnight, Sam knocked once. You up? Jude nodded. They sat together outside Jude's room. The hallway was dim, but the tension was full color. I want you to coach, Sam said. Jude blinked. Coach what? Swimming. I bought a facility today. Old place. Needs work. But it's yours. Jude didn't know what to say. I'm not. I don't know if I belong in that world anymore. Sam looked at him. You jumped into a river. No rope. No plan. You never left that world. Before Jude could respond, a soft alarm beeped. A guard's voice echoed through a hallway speaker. Movement outside the fence. 2 figures. They rushed to the security room. On the screen, 2 dark shapes near the trees, moving like they knew how to avoid cameras. They're testing us, Sam said. Then, surprisingly, Madame Sandra appeared, walking slowly with the help of a nurse. Her voice was clear, cold. They are afraid. Sam turned. You should be resting. I've rested enough. She looked at Jude. Whatever they planned for you, whatever they stole, your life is already changing. You survived drowning. You survived prison. You survived silence. That means you're dangerous to people who depend on forgetting. Jude didn't speak. Her words pressed against something old in his chest. Something that had been buried so long he barely recognized it. Hope. Outside, the figures disappeared into darkness. But the message was clear. They knew where he was. And now they knew he was no longer alone. The morning after the intrusion, the mansion felt eerily quiet. Not peaceful, just hollow, as if it was holding its breath. Jude watched guards walk the gardens in slow, calculated loops. Their faces were alert, tense, but there was something else there too. Anticipation, like the whole estate waited for a storm it already knew was coming. Inside, Sam Andrews sat at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, and words measured like they might be the last ones he ever spoke. Madame Sandra, seated nearby, looked fragile and strong at the same time, like a sword battered but still sharp. Sam ended the call abruptly and looked at Jude with eyes far too tired for a man his age. They weren't just watching, he said. They were waiting for you to step outside. Jude met his gaze evenly. So, I'm the target. No, Sandra corrected him, voice firm. You're a witness. Targets can hide. Witnesses change the story. It was the truth he'd felt deep in his bones since the bridge, that his jump didn't just save her life, it exposed him. And exposure was a threat to men used to operating in shadows. What happened wasn't about business, she continued. It was about control. They wanted what should have remained in hands that protected. Sam's jaw tightened. My uncle, Victor, he didn't see her as family. He saw her as a blockage. When she refused to sign over her shares of Sam's, he decided she needed to be removed. Jude exhaled slowly. The pieces snapped together like a door unlatching. The river, the men, the waiting convoy, the silent faces that didn't flinch. This was a plan, a deeply sick plan, and he had been caught in it because he cared enough to act. Later that day, one of the men from the bridge was in custody. Hands cuffed, voice shaking, eyes refusing to meet Jude's. When he finally spoke, it was like letting a rat out of a hole. They said it would look like an accident, the man stuttered. They said she was old, that nobody would jump. Cunlay told us. Cunlay and Victor's backing. Sam didn't wait. He demanded proof. The man handed over a phone, messages voice notes, transfers. Enough to prove collusion between Victor's inner circle and hired hands meant to bury the whole affair in silence. Sam's response was swift. He called the police. He called Sanchez' legal team. And he called a judge, the same judge who once signed the order that sent Jude to prison based on fabricated evidence. Judge Bite arrived, older, slower, weighed down by years of decisions he never revisited. When he saw Jude, something softened in his eyes. "I remember your case," the judge said quietly, voice rough with memory. Sam slid a thick file toward him. "Take another look. This is the truth." The files were undeniable. Confessions, links, timelines, evidence that pointed straight to Victor and his network. Victor sat in the boardroom with his usual arrogance until the proof landed in front of him. His face drained as each document unfolded the lie that had been his power. "You tried to kill my mother," Sam said. Victor spluttered, feigning disbelief, but the police were already at the door. He protested his innocence, claimed it was conspiracy, claimed loyalty, but none of it stuck. Madame Sandra watched silently as Victor was led away in cuffs, shouting about family and betrayal. "You stopped being family," she said softly, "when you chose the river." And just like that, the empire inside the mansion shifted. Weeks passed, and the story spread across Lagos like wildfire. Swimmer's name cleared after fatal plot exposed. Billionaire's mother alive after attack. Judge reopens high-profile, wrongful conviction. Jude watched these headlines with a quiet disbelief. His face was in pictures. His name on mouths he didn't recognize. But the truth was different. The change wasn't in news cycles or trending topics. It was here, in the old swimming facility Sam bought. It had once been abandoned, forgotten, just a shell of concrete and stale air. Sam turned it over to Jude, not as charity, but as purpose. Jude rebuilt it from the bottom up. Fresh paint, new lanes, clean water, children splashing and kicking and laughing because they didn't know any better than to embrace joy. He coached teenagers who had never believed someone good could look them in the eye. He coached quiet little girls who reminded him of the boy he used to be, overlooked, underestimated, but powerful. And then Olivia came. She stepped into the pool area on a volunteer medical call, her hair tied back, eyes kind but curious. She watched Jude coach with a firm voice and gentle heart. Later, she told him, "You shout like you're saving them." Jude smiled, half embarrassed, half honest. Maybe he was. Their friendship grew. Slow, honest, without pretense. When Jude finally proposed, he didn't do it in front of a crowd. He did it by the pool at sunset. Just him, Olivia, and the water that once tried to take him. "I lost years," he said, voice shaking. "I don't want to lose you too." And Olivia smiled through tears. Yes. When their wedding day came, it was warm and bright. Not perfect, but real. White flowers lined the aisle. Soft music hovered in the air. Sam stood nearby, clapping like he was proud of more than a friend, more like a brother. And when the doors opened, there was Madame Sandra, walking down the aisle, steady and alive, holding Olivia's arm. Tears filled Jude's eyes. Madame Sandra reached them. "2 years ago," she whispered, "the river tried to take us. Today we stand because we chose life." Jude's throat tightened. "You changed my life." She smiled gently. "No," she said, voice soft. "You changed mine first." She placed Olivia's hand in Jude's. "Your kindness paid. Your life is restored." And as applause rose around them, Jude finally understood. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about rising. And if you followed this journey, if the river's pull, the fear, the fight, the truth, and the rise mattered to you, tell us, where are you watching from? Your city, your street, your corner of the world. And if stories about buried lives finding their way back matter to you, like, comment, and subscribe. Because some lives aren't just saved. They are remembered.